Hey everybody, I'm Charting Man Dan with the Chart Guys, trader and technical analyst for the last 14 and a half years. We're going to check in on the quantum sector yet again. It certainly has been no shortage of entertainment with insane volatility. We found a fear climax bottom, had monster bounces off of it. I'll tell you what I'm looking for in the short term as far as most likely scenarios and what we're looking for in a bit longer term spread out over the next couple of months. So we'll start with a bit about the fundamentals, then we'll look at what I'm doing, and then we'll look at what these individual chart setups are and some key levels. And the headlines recently, again, the CEOs come out. First it was NVDA, then it was Meta, Zuckerberg saying, they think that quantum is 15 to 30 years out. Just be aware that all these short-term headlines, all they're doing is accelerating what normal price action would be, accelerating and magnifying. Because, again, a couple comments from CEOs isn't enough for an entire sector to lose 75% of its value in 4 days. That's big money waiting for a reason that retail can follow along. So much of what CNBC does and what financial media does in general is just explaining normal price action to retail traders. They don't understand, why would something go up 5% on this day? Well, that's because if you look at a standard equilibrium, that's the most likely scenario. If you watch this pattern 6,000 times play out, this is what's going to happen more likely than not. Retail doesn't understand that. We're going up because this person said this. RGTI, its bounce was magnified yesterday because someone gave it a price upgrade. I think it was to 850. And now you've got, Microsoft or Nvidia is having a quantum day in 2 months. It's just headlines to help perpetuate the positioning that big money is going to be doing regardless. So you run it up insanely, you dump it insanely, you V-shape bounce it nice and hard, and now you look for things to calm down and settle down. And that's where we stand right now. We're in that phase of the process. So the way I've been trading it is, again, talked about how, I was short. I missed a big chunk of this leg down. I got the meat in the middle. And then I looked long and I started getting long here on RGTI, and all day I was battling. I thought the daily bounce was going to get started on Monday. And so all day we got an 18% bull move right away. Sell a little bit, and then we dump to fresh lows, and then an 11% bounce, sell a little bit, and then reload. I was just constantly flipping, and I did end up with a swing position that paid off really well on Tuesday. Didn't go aggressive though. I wanted to go aggressive, but I needed one more gap down if I was going to really go aggressive in that position, and it didn't happen. But when you go 50%, even a regular size or even a small position is very worthwhile. I did not swing it into today. Again, didn't want to be greedy. It was just, my target was a 50% bounce off the lows. At this point, we went 100%. And again, just insane opportunity in both directions. This is my trading account over the last year. And you can see this is when I started trading quantum every day, was right here. And it's just a steady grind up. And most of that is day trading and not swing trading. And so that's what I default to, is just being cash, because there's such wild swings and extended hours often that I just know I can be in complete control when I'm day trading. And I just will miss this volatility so much when it is gone. And it's on its way out. What do I mean? I mean that the most likely scenario from here is, again, we talked about the weekly high or low being most likely. That's probably set. If the low is not in for now, for us to trade within a wide range for a prolonged period of time, it's a big red flag longer term. That would then make me extremely confident saying we're not going back to all-time highs anytime soon if these lows break. We've got our euphoria top and our fear bottom, and we are very likely to trade within this range for months. Now, let's look at QUBT just as an example, because it's given us a perfect example, right? Technical analysis can't predict blah, blah, blah. No, but human emotions repeat. Look at these charts, 2021. Straight up, you go 700, what is that? 800% plus, straight up. You give back the majority of it, straight drop, and then you tighten up. This is exactly what I'm looking for in the sector, because this is the most likely scenario when you get that kind of insane volatility. We shot up 800%, we dumped down 50%, we then bounced to a lower high, a higher low, a lower high, and then that's 2 months of trading sideways, and then it ended up breaking bear. So I'm looking for a bounce a lower high, a higher low, and next thing you know, it'll be, towards the end of February. We'll see what earnings does for this sector. I definitely think, that might smack some things down to reality a bit in terms of where we stand, in terms of market cap versus what revenue is actually coming in. But as we know, so much of this move is forward looking, and so much of the forward looking is unknown. That's why we're getting this insane volatility in large part. So if we're going to see weekly higher lows set and bounce, how's that going to shape up? I'm on the 4-hour time frame. So the way I'm viewing this sector is IONQ as the leader in market cap, and then RGTI, QBTS, QUBT as their own things. That's all I'm watching. I've got QMCO up here. I don't watch it. I don't trade it. I've traded all these other names. Recently, RGTI has been my horse, but it's mostly RGTI and QBTS that I am trading. I'm now looking back bearish from here in the short term. One more note on IONQ. So IONQ is holding up way better than these other smaller names. In my opinion, a large part of that is, okay, euphoria mode, run everything. Run the junk, run the scams, doesn't matter. If it's got quantum in the names, pump it. And then once we get the sell-off and say, okay, top's in for now, then money congregates to the least risky, right? So IONQ being a sector leader, a market cap leader, it's less risky than something like QUBT. And so it's not surprising that money would congregate here. And it's just less volatile. I don't trade it as much because I like the volatility as a day trade. And, the pullback here, pullback was 52%. Other names dropped 75%. And again, the bounce, it's very worthwhile, 52%, but RGTI has already bounced 100%. So it's just, RGTI is just a leveraged version of what IONQ is doing. And IONQ, one of the major differences is we built a base of support. The vast majority of the other names dropped significantly to lower lows here, where IONQ held the base of support. So 26 is now a very important support zone, and the all-time high is not nearly as far away. I mean, to get to an all-time high from where we stand right now, most names still need 100 to 300%, whereas here we need 38%. So that's why I view these differently, because they are different setups. They do similar things very often, but the magnitude of the moves are different. And again, we're back in the gap fill. If RGTI were going to be back in the gap fill, we'd be trading in the $13 range right now. So it's just a variation. Most likely scenario for me here on IONQ is to set a daily lower high compared to the all-time high, pull back. The good news for bulls is we've set a big enough bounce now that there's space for a higher low. So I'm expecting a lower high on IONQ and then eventually a higher low. The NASDAQ and the S&P 500 is absolutely having an impact in these names. It's not a tick for tick correlation, but just to show you an example, here's RGTI on the 15-minute time frame today. And let's now look at QQQ on the 15-minute. The bull reaction to CPI numbers definitely helped. So here's your bull reaction. RGTI, bull reaction to CPI, pull back right at the open, lower wick, higher low right away. Bull move, pull back, higher low, lower wick at the open, bull move to fresh highs. We top out on RGTI at 10.15 and we roll over to 11.30. We top out on QQQ at 10.15 and we roll over to 11.45, slight difference. We then set a higher low and bounce all afternoon, higher low, bounce all afternoon, pull back into the end, pull back into the end. It's the same chart, obviously to varying degrees, but you can look at this and say RGTI was significantly correlated to the NASDAQ today. So you better believe that when I'm trading this intraday, I've got RGTI on one screen and QQQ on the other screen because of how similar they are to each other. So what does that mean? Well, that means if we're going to see a pullback that I'm looking for in quantum in the near term, then that means QQQ needs to set a daily lower high as well. So if IONQ is going to set a daily lower high and pull back, QQQ as well. Again, it's not a coincidence that the bounce in the NASDAQ has been the last couple of days, and we're seeing a bounce in quantum the last couple of days. So hourly uptrend is our guide. IONQ, we can say there's a ton of space for an hourly high or low, anything above the low of today. if we're going to see daily consolidation shape up, the bears will have to confirm an hourly downtrend. That's going to take a while to develop. It's going to take hours and hours to develop. But the reason I'm looking bearish in the short term, and I was looking bearish today, I wasn't trading today, fortunately. Although, again, it gave plenty of opportunity. You know, if I were focusing on RGTI or QBTS, I was doing some hypothetical trading just because I told myself I'm not trading today. I'm on a heater. I want to give myself a little bit of a breather, let euphoria cool off after the bounce day on Tuesday played out. I was, looking at QUBT as a potential short, would have stopped out break even here, and then I would have focused on RGTI and QBTS because they had a 5-minute lower high setup. My point is, I would have been wrong in terms of today being a top of this bounce, but again, plenty of volatility to position, a pullback of 16%. So got to do partial positions. If the move starts going your way, 5% plus, you scale out a partial position and get comfortable and get risk-free and try and let it play out from there. So the reason I'm looking bearish is because RGTI and some of these names have now bounced 75 to 100% straight up. And what I'm going to be looking for is the possibility of 4-hour inverse head and shoulders. So if this is a weekly higher low, then a 4-hour inverse head and shoulders needs to confirm. This is a resistance at 1139. We broke it today by 15 cents. Maybe 20 cents, somewhere in between that. So if we pull back from here, we look for a 4-hour higher low compared to where we came from, 550 in extended hours. And then if the bulls can confirm this 4-hour inverse head and shoulders, the weekly higher low is likely set. We had a 30-minute inverse head and shoulders mark the bottom here yesterday. This was a good one. We topped out on RGTI at 693. We topped out at 695. And then we confirmed it when the bell rang. If I were on point with my aggressive trading, I would have added there. And I wasn't. I didn't. But that was the add spot. So, RGTI, hourly support set today, 973. If a 4-hour pullback is coming, we've got to break that level tomorrow, 973. We're pulling back a little bit in extended hours. So we've got our high, low, lower high, and we're watching a tightening range right now in between 1156 and 973. Again, it's such a wide range. The reason I say the volatility is going to come to an end comparatively, again, it's still going to be plenty of volatility for trading over the coming couple of weeks. But again, as I mentioned in the last video, the average daily ranges that we are accustomed to over the last month are coming to an end sooner rather than later. So, all that said, before we go through the other names, 4-hour inverse head and shoulders. Can they confirm to set the weekly higher lows? Another thing you see with these names, RGTI led the bounce by leaps and bounds yesterday, 48% or whatever it was, while other names were 16 to 25%. And then there was catch-up that was played. In extended hours, those names that did not move as much as RGTI were up 18%. RGTI was up maybe 7%. And then today, you've got QUBT up 55%, while RGTI was up 22%. So it's just a little bit of catch-up, all right? You've got a leader, then maybe you take some profit in the leader and you rotate it in some of the other names. And so QBTS, 4-hour, here's your resistance at 676. Again, is this a potential 4-hour inverse head and shoulders? That is what I'm watching for. I'm looking for in the short term, 4-hour consolidation. I'm looking for a higher low compared to where we came from. And then can the bulls confirm that pattern? QBTS, hourly support from today. It was the weakest name out of the 4 today. But 530 is key support in the short term. If that breaks, it's an hourly downtrend confirming into that 4-hour consolidation. QUBT just popped after hours and gave it back. But 4-hour. We broke 4-hour resistance here. It was 1112, so not quite the same setup. But again, can we confirm a 4-hour uptrend after the next consolidation? If so, weekly higher low set. And then we're going to zoom out, and I'll have made another video by then. And we're going to be watching for weekly lower highs to be the most likely scenario. So I'm bearish until we get 4-hour consolidation. I'm bullish for a 4-hour higher low. And then eventually I'll be bearish for a weekly lower high. That's why when someone says, are you bullish or bearish? What time frame are you talking about? It should vary on every time frame. If you're a technical analysis professional trader. QMCO. So again, is QMCO heading back to that all-time high? Well, what's the probability that we can go plus 450% from the low of a couple days ago? 350%. Math is off. 350%. What are the probabilities? It is not likely at all. We're going to look for a bounce and a lower high and a tightening range. And again, some of these names will likely not see that high again anytime soon. Some of these names will do what QBT, QUBT did in 2021. They'll give us the tightening range, and then if that breaks bear, depending on what dilution looks like, depending on convertible debt, could slow bleed for years. Depending, what will throw all my technical analysis out the window would be a breakthrough where everybody says, whoa, we weren't expecting that. Timeline is moved up for everybody across the board. But until that happens, you're just going to have the constant debates and all that. When it's time for lower highs, you're going to see bearish headlines. And you're going to see more people talking about how far away it is. And when it's time for a higher low and a bull move, you're going to see the exact opposite. So often, headline sentiment lags price action. Oftentimes it leads it. Again, the 75% dump is, again, for me, in my career, I am a hype sector specialist. All of my leveling up and life-changing stuff that's happened as a trader has been from hype sectors. Crypto, cannabis, whatever it is. I have never seen a drop that fast. I have traded known penny stock scams that have gone up 1,000% and they don't drop that fast. All-time high to minus 75% in 4 days on no company-specific news is insane. This is for the history books for me. Again, I've got a list of 8 hype euphoria markets that I've traded or watched trade, and I've never seen anything like this. 14 years in, and this is something completely new. And it was fun to watch. Forget what I was saying, but 4-hour, then to the weekly. QMCO, same deal. 4-hour, resistance, 35.80. If we fail that level, look for the 4-hour higher low, and then have to confirm that pattern to say, yep, the weekly higher low is set, and then we scout a weekly lower high. And you got to be watching earnings for peers as well. I don't know if these, TradingView doesn't have all these earnings laid out, so you got to do some digging as to when they are potentially. IONQ, November. That might be right. But anyways, don't get surprised if you're in swing positions. I don't care because I'm not in any swing positions right now. But if a peer gives earnings and you're in a name, it's going to be impacted. So just be aware of that. All right, let's summarize real quick. I said a lot. IONQ, leader. Less volatile, generally speaking. Closer to all-time highs. Money likely flowing there as it's the least risky of the group. Other names, 4-hour inverse head and shoulders watch. So I'm looking bearish short term. And then looking bullish for 4-hour higher lows, and then I will be looking bearish for eventual weekly lower highs at some point, probably early February at this point. But as always, it's just one day at a time. Every day we get new information. And again, not nailing tops and bottoms, but there is so much range here to get the meat of the move and still have it be very worthwhile. Every single trade needs a stop loss. I cannot tell you how many traders are getting blown out in both directions on these names, because it goes way more than you think it will. Down 50%, oh, I'm going long. Next thing you know, it drops another 50% from there. Is that how the math works? If you're down from 21 to 11, another 50% from there, from 11 to 5.5. You've got to use stops, or at least position accordingly. The swing position I had in RGTI was small enough where even if it did gap down, that would have been okay. If you're going to go aggressive, you must have nearby stop levels. All right, feel free to ask any questions, do good things. We'll check back in a few days, probably maybe over the weekend, to see how that 4-hour does end up shaping up. And again, you got to keep an eye on the NASDAQ because it is definitely impacting things in the short term.